And now, the best 60-ish seconds of your week. Dominating the news this week was the apparent grisly and brutal murder of American journalist Jamal Khashoggi inside the Saudi Arabian consulate. And we simply don't know enough of the facts and certainly not enough of the response at this point to appropriately comment. We'll save it for next week. And in the meantime, we'll simply pray for his family, for his soul, and that justice is swiftly and appropriately delivered. Back here at home, the subject is the midterm congressional elections. And as we've been predicting all along, the economy is once again taking center stage. You know, the Democratic Party's chief economist had predicted that there would be a recession beginning several months ago. Instead, the economy is humming along at better than 4% annual growth, something we never saw during the previous administration. And with it, that rising tide truly is lifting all boats. Lowest unemployment in 50 years, rising wages, increased consumer confidence, all sorts of good news on the economic front. So some on the other side now are suggesting that we take a look at the national debt and in particular the current deficit. Now, their suggestion is that the Trump tax cuts are what's driving that. But the fact of the matter is that revenue is up at an all-time high, projected for the next fiscal year to be the most ever collected by the United States government. That's inside the tax cuts that are currently there because the old Laffer curve model really does work. Lowering the tax rates increases the amount of revenue actually raised. Let's not make any mistake about it. The debt and the deficit are real American problems. They impact our children and our grandchildren, and it's something that really should be swiftly and considerably dealt with. But for those that have newfound angst over the debt and the deficit, you might remind them that the national debt went up under President Obama by nearly $9 trillion, that's with a T, dollars, an 86% increase over the course of his administration. And how much weeping and wailing and gnashing of teeth was there at that particular time? There should have been. And it should have been bipartisan because it really is something that dramatically impacts our future. But the fact of the matter is that it's spending that drives the debt up and that causes the deficits which create the debt. And neither party seems to have much of an appetite for entitlement reform, which really is at the heart of getting spending under control. Let's hope and pray that at some point in the near future there can be a bipartisan willingness to touch the so-called third rail and really deal with entitlement spending, because there is the opportunity to curb the growing national debt. One of the other major factors that will impact the midterm elections in a couple of weeks is voter intensity and enthusiasm. We've heard a lot about the Democrats enjoying an enthusiasm gap lead, which has for most of this year been true. But now it's beginning to tighten, and it may even be that the Republicans eclipse that, because in the last 2 weeks alone, the Democrats have increased their enthusiasm rating by only 4 points, whereas the Republicans have been a plus 13 in that regard. But for both sides, there's good news because both Republicans and Democrats are saying that there is a very high interest and they think it is very important to participate in the 2018 midterm elections. So because turnout largely determines who wins the midterm elections, there's a lot yet to be seen over the course of these next 2 weeks. Next week, we'll talk about the Senate races and the opportunity for Republicans to actually build on their very narrow margin in the Senate while they still struggle on the House side of the November elections. But for now, because folks are telling me that we every once in a while exceed a true 60 seconds, that will be the best 60-ish seconds of your week.